Okay, Mayor, whenever you want to go ahead and get started.
Okay, I would like a motion to open our March 8th meeting of the Village of Bronxville Board of Trustees. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second? Second, thank you. And we will start with our work session. And Mr. Palmer, do you want to go over anything on the agenda?
Well, yeah, I'd just like to start. Does anyone have any questions with any of the items on the agenda?
I did have one question. Our fiscal advisors, can you give me sort of just a concrete, what they do for us in a real concrete way?
Sure, there are bond consultants, so they provide a host of services, provide a host of the documents that we need to prepare to go out to bond. They provide financing schedules, provide us continuous information on what the current market rates are, what other communities are doing, but most importantly, they prepare the documents that we need, the notice requirements, publication requirements associated with actually going out to bond. And they participate in the calls as needed. And I should say today, we had our call with Moody's in anticipation of the bond sale on Monday. So our representative with fiscal advisors was on that call. And you might recall the board went with fiscal advisors just two years ago. They're based out of Syracuse, but they've made trips down here, and they represent other communities also in Westchester. But principally, yes, they put together the documents that we need to actually go out to bond, and they assist us with the timing of that.
And Jim, were you happy with them 2 years ago when you used them and you hired them? Obviously, I mean.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. There's really principally three firms that cover this whole region, and the representative that we've been working with had been with one of the other firms, then came over to fiscal advisors, but their rates are all comparable. But the person that we've been dealing with, Beth Ferguson, has anyway, she's been with the village since I've been here. She knows the community very well. She provides some guidance, and it's interesting because even Moody's has started to reprioritize some of their rating criteria, if you will, and they're now including questions on environmental challenges that a community might have, or environmental vulnerabilities, if you will, as a result of climate change. So that's so these are the kind of things that we go over in advance with our representative. Yes.
Thank you.
I guess my other information, Jim, is we're talking about possibly changing the parking time over on Studio Arcade. And that was brought to us by what happens is there's maybe 6 doctors, a health spa, people who live there, and they asked for a 2-hour parking instead of the 1.5 hours, because a lot of the treatments, whether it's a beauty treatment or a doctor, often last 90 minutes or sometimes more. So the neighbors were all in agreement to ask us to give more time given their parking needs. So that came right from the folks who live and work on Studio Arcade.
Right, and we'll often do that from time to time. Most recently, we did Parkway Road, and so that's something that we can institute that change. And if it turns out to be problematic, then we can always make adjustments. But it was something that was brought up to the mayor, and it's there are some uses there that just seem to bode well for a longer duration.
Didn't we have that? Didn't other people in the village say that too, for like their hair appointments or the movies?
I mean, I would
Yeah.
think that like that argument is sort of village wide in a way.
You know what, but yet it's fascinating because there's so many, often, I guess, opposing factors, for lack of a better term, but you're right. When I started on Pondfield, we had the meters there on street for 2 hours, but yes, when I found out that at the salon, someone could be in there for 4 or 5 hours, we then
Not me.
I know, not me. We then made some adjustments to the timing in the lots. So we made sure that there was some long-term meters that were nearby. But much of the goal, of course, with the on-street is to encourage the turnover.
Yeah.
So, but I think in this case, that area is still far enough of a walk from the hospital that if someone's looking to do a trip to the hospital, they're either going to park in the garage or or do the valet parking with the hospital. That's all.
And you know, Helen, there weren't the competing interests, because
Right.
you're absolutely right. Like Continental customers want a long time, but Silk Road and the
Yeah.
cheese shop don't want a long time.
Yeah.
But on the other side, it was unanimity that the kind of people on that little strip were sort of unanimous in, you know, the kind of businesses they were. So.
Okay, thank you.
Let's see, I'm just trying to think of anything else. The other items really are housekeeping. Lori did prepare a resolution for some funding for upgrades to the traffic signals. And that was not something that we had on our capital plan, but it was an opportunity that we did have to address both the light over at Sagamore and the light at Locust at the same time, because anyway, we can save a few dollars when the contractor comes out and we have his bucket truck for a day. So we can save a little bit on labor, and both of the signals, both the one at Locust and Bonfield, and then the one over at Sagamore and Avon, needed to be upgraded to the newer style, and also with LEDs. And so we did that.
I have two
is it
quick
any-
traffic light questions. One is, how are things going on the replacement of the lights at the intersection of Gramerton and Pondfield?
So we are, how's it going? Jim, do you want to start, or do you want to have any comment on that? Not to put you on the spot, but it's, let's put it this way. It's taking a lot longer than I would like. And the transport company has been represented by council, and they've been reviewing a lot of documents and anyway, and doing a lot of depositions.
Why don't, just to short circuit things, but maybe you could just have an update for that at one of our upcoming meetings, because I know that's sort of been hanging out there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Much longer than I'd like, that's for sure.
And I think another sort of conversation we need to have is the whole Pondfield Midland traffic. As long as we're talking traffic, I think we have to have, I know the chief would like us to dig a little deeper into our thoughts on what to do with that intersection. Because, you know, that's a hard one. We're constantly telling people, have your children walk to school, become more of a walkable village. And we just have to make sure that that intersection is as walkable as we can make it, especially for kids.
Right. That, for that matter, right. That's right. I should probably, yes, I will update you on that at a later time as well.
Good.
We also, didn't we, 2 months ago or so, we approved the study of the traffic on 22 for a potential crossway from east of 22 over. Is that kind of being studied now in New York? I thought we gave that to
We actually, so what we requested was the several of the residents in that neighborhood had well, essentially signed a petition, and then the mayor and I met with a couple of the residents, and yes, following our work session, we made a request to the New York State Department of Transportation to arrange for a meeting on site with me and the chief, so we could have some new traffic counts done and have the viability, the feasibility of a crosswalk somewhere mid-block, I say, if you will, somewhere mid-block between the existing signalized intersection at Pond Field and 22 and the light up at Tanglewile.
Yeah.
And that's, yes, so I wrote to the state back in December, wrote again in January. They said, all right, we'll work on scheduling something. I'm gonna have to follow back up with them to, now that the weather is improving, get them back out there. So it's sort of the ball's in their court, so to speak, and I'm just gonna have to keep following up because yes, we wanted to examine what could potentially be done mid-block. And then likewise, I was looking for an update on the original pedestrian buttons that they were going to install in conjunction with the existing signal at Pond Field and 22. So I kind of wanted to see if that was something that was still going to be in the works or if it had to be one or the other. So I'll make a note to follow back up with them again.
Thank you.
Jim, have we gone over our snow budget?
I am, and I should say this in the public meeting, I am, well, firstly, I'm thrilled with the work of the DPW. No, we are not over our snow budget. I want to be very cautious in saying that, but I gotta tell you, I'm real proud of Victor. He works real hard we follow the forecast really carefully, and no, so we obviously used more than we did last year, so I'm not thrilled about that. But February was a rough month, but no, we're doing okay. We still have some salt in the salt budget too, but and now the guys, of course, are on pothole patrol, and they've already started doing some patches.
Jim, you've actually triggered another minor question. Is that stretch of, I think it's Archer Place, which is sort of the continuation of Duesenberry, between the nature preserve and the park that goes by a name which we can't use officially.
Correct, right.
Having something to do with canines. That road is so full of potholes, it's like a minefield, and I know it's in Tuckahoe, but I don't know, maybe you can talk to the mayor and figure out whether one could do a real cheap fix there, because a Bronxville resident is as likely as a Tuckahoe or Eastchester resident to like break an axle on one of those potholes.
Right, now, you know what? Now, let me actually stop. Believe it or not, it's actually in the town of Eastchester, and they were actually going to pave it and put new curbing in the year before last. So Stephen, remind me to follow back up with the town. And I don't know if it was the old superintendent of highways retired, but that was absolutely on the schedule because it needed, well, it should have some drainage work. It needs to be repaved and there should be some curving, and that was going to be done. And then really what the chief would probably remind me is I did want to look at some kind of attractive fence, white fence that could be put on the Duesenberry side, reminding people that it's one way. So that's have to take that back up in the spring too. But I'll follow up with the town on that too, see if it's on their paving schedule now. But it was supposed to be done.
Yeah, I wouldn't mention it, except it's really, really bad now.
Yes, nope, you're absolutely right. I guess the only benefit of that is that it may slow cars down a bit.
Yeah.
Jim, do you want to, it's a minor thing, but we got a couple complaints over the weekend that because everybody's out, it's all a good thing that all the trash barrels, we can't keep up with the garbage pickup in the business district. So we may have to go to some Sunday pickup. Is that correct?
Yes, and you know what? We actually do, and we have it in our agreement with the Teamsters Collective Bargaining Unit. So I don't want to get into it at the meeting. I think there was a personnel issue involved. So that's the reason why the bins were overflowing. But yes, normally someone from the DPW is out Saturday morning and Sunday morning. So, anyway, but I've since dealt with that issue this morning. So it should be done every Saturday and Sunday, and we're especially going to need the Sundays going forward because with the warm weather coming. But likewise, we also are planning on bringing on, adding a few additional bins in the downtown because they do fill up quickly. I'm sorry, did everybody get that?
Any other trustee topics? Because we actually have a few more minutes.
I just
Anything?
wanted to bring up, Mayor, were you going to bring up, I just wanted to make sure in terms of the advisory committee for the smarter communities, we were going to, was everyone okay with the existing membership and then adding a couple of additional members, correct? Is that the way we're going to do that?
Yeah, I think so.
Helen and I talked today, and Helen and I agreed the core people that the environmental committee picked were terrific. We just thought a student and somebody from the hospital, because the hospital generates so much, trash and everything, and the somebody representing the merchant component, if we could add 3 more people. So the hospital were great. They've already signed on and have a point person. And Helen's working on the school and I'm working with the chambers. So do we need to formally ratify that, or we just get the concurrence from our group, Jim? I'm not sure how we have to do that. Jim Stout?
So this is a committee to which you're making appointments, Mayor?
It's a subcommittee. We're trying to be a climate smart community. And part of the charter is to have a climate smart committee. And Helen and Stephen are the in-house and trustee liaisons. And you have to have a committee. So I'm just not sure if that.
Actually, yeah, and you know what, I'm sorry to interrupt, but actually, yes, and as Stephen knows this, so Stephen explained to me, yes, the advisory, so what I think we should do is reach out to those other individuals then at the hospital, and the merchant, the other individuals you want to bring on board, and then at the next meeting, do a resolution appointing those individuals to the advisory committee, because that actually becomes one of those documents we also have to submit to the state, correct, Stephen? Right, it's either that or, yes, it's either that or an executive order, but we should do that as a resolution, appointing them to that task of assisting us with the meeting the pledge requirements, right, Stephen?
Jim, and I'll give you a hand with that. We'll talk about term, and it probably is at the pleasure of the board, but we'll just deal with a few of those issues.
So then in the interim, Helen and I will each get the one person that we're kind of assigned. As I say, it was terrific. The hospital came on board.
Right
And
away. I mean, that was such a great
Wasn't
response.
it?
Mary,
Yeah.
you knew exactly who to go to get that.
They were great. So Helen had the idea, which was the really good ideas. The Green Committee, the people are absolutely terrific, but we had to get a little less insular and include the business, the hospital, and we'd love to include the high school when we can, so those are going to be our 3 additions.
Mayor, could I just ask that you circulate, again, I know you did it earlier, just whatever the most current list is.
Yeah, sure.
I've gotten some inquiries about the committee, and I just want to sort of refresh my recollection of.
Okay, will do. So you want the list of the proposed membership of the Climate Smart Committee?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Perfect, will do.
I can forward that, Mary, if I can forward that to Bill if you want to have it.
Yeah, Helen, I'll take a copy as well. Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks, Helen. Thanks. All right, I think we have literally 3 minutes. So
Jim Palmer, could you give a brief update as to the status of the DPW construction?
Sure. Plumbing work is mostly complete. The electrical work is mostly complete. And then they will be pouring finish pouring the rest of the foundation for the garage. So it's otherwise the frame is up, but they were towards the end of last week and this week, they're finishing up the plumbing work. They did do pouring of the concrete, I think, for the truck washing bay. So it's really just getting the other work below the foundation in. But, and we have a construction schedule, a meeting later this week. And, but we should still be on target for a completion in the summertime. So I think you'll start to see more of those noticeable improvements now that the electrical and the plumbing is done. Yep, very, very exciting. Yeah.
No, we've been lucky on that one. That's really, I mean, thanks to you, Jim Palmer, that's been going really well.
Yeah, I
Thank
mean,
you.
it doesn't seem as noticeable because they've been working on the inside and below grade, but they're, yep, given that the weather was not so terrific for the month of February. Yep, and then I think what you'll start to see is we did get some of the brick delivery. So, yep, so they'll start installing that too soon. So, yep.
All right, you know what? I'm going to be on time tonight, and I am going to, since I have it at 6 o'clock, I am going to open our regular meeting for March 8th, 2021. And I'm going to start with the mayor's report. First item is everyone on this call, all the trustees, we were on a Zoom call with both the presidents of Iona and Concordia. Our group is endeavoring to be early partners with both institutions to frankly craft the best possible outcome for the village. I also worked with President Carey of Iona, and our local paper is going to put quite an extensive article in about him on Wednesday. Most of the information about what we learned from him, and also a personal statement from him to our community. And also thanks to all of you, I sent over a list of anything we had heard from villagers, their concerns, their desires, their visions for what Iona would look like in the community. Also this week, thanks to, believe it or not, $27,000 in small donations to the Chamber of Commerce, whether it was folks who bought the tote bags or the magnets. We are giving out to the merchants, dividing up the money and giving out to our first floor merchants some small checks to help cover some of their COVID expenses. And the merchants are so appreciative of this. I mean, it's just going a long way to have them share that that we're all partners in this. And I have to thank Rose Crawford, village resident, Shannon Gangemi, executive head of the chamber, Leah Caro, who is president of the chamber, and kind of the umbrella director of all this, Ed Forst, because they just did this portion of the Bronxville for Bronxville. And it's meant an awful lot to the merchants. It's really gone a long way. Other things, I'm working with the chief on some new signs for the business district, just temporary, just reminding people about the importance of wearing a mask and social distancing. Because I will tell you, that's the #1 call that comes into Village Hall, saying, please remind people when they're on the sidewalk on Pondfield Road to wear their mask, because there's so many places on Pondfield Road that you can't be socially distanced. So we're just going to put up nice gentle reminder signs. Jim Palmer mentioned it is pothole time, and residents do ask how to report one, and they can either call DPW at 337-7338, or Jim Palmer graciously said just email him at jpalmer@vobny.com, and we keep a running list then in the office, because we know it's been a tough year for potholes. And just one last thing, I just have to I think on behalf of all of us, the kudos to the Bronxville administration of the school, the faculty, and the families for keeping that school open. It has affected the entire morale of the community, the business district, and it's just kept the spirits up. And I just have to say thank you to our neighbors across the street for doing an amazing effort. Yeah, they and before I give it to Jim Palmer, any trustees, put it this way, you could come in anytime you want to say something on any topic. So, but I'll turn it over to Mr. Palmer.
Thanks, Mayor. The only items I wanted to mention is I did also just want to thank the DPW again for February was a real rough month, but the guys really did a fabulous job, and our foreman, Victor Lima, really did a great job trying to maintain the right amount of staff while also being sensitive to budgetary needs. So hopefully warmer weather is here to stay. Let's see, I already mentioned to all of you, we had our Moody's call this morning, the treasurer and I thought that was real positive. We'll be following back up with them on Wednesday. And otherwise, really for me, it's just budget. Working on trying to get making sure I get the budget done by the 20th. And of course, I should also mention a reminder to everyone, Election Day. Village elections are going to be held next Tuesday, March 16th. The information is on the village website for the locations. We're using the same locations that the village had done, the village had used for the village elections from last year that were postponed to September. So that means 2 polling places in the courtroom, 3 polling places over at the firehouse across the street, and then the 2 locations over at Christ Church, where people can either park along Kensington Road or also along Sagamore Road, but they enter via the Kensington side to the auditorium. So just ask people to go to the website for more details on that. And we also do have a sample. I'll have to make sure the sample ballot is on the website, but we do have one posted out in front of Village Hall.
Okay. All right, then I'm going to move on. I need a motion to approve our minutes from the February 8th, 2021 meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any changes, corrections? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor of approving minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then Jim Palmer, do you want to start with the most important event coming up, the budget and the annual meeting? We need a public hearing.
Yes, so we scheduled a public hearing for as part of the April meeting, which is also our traditional day for our annual meeting. So that would be scheduling it for the second Monday of April, which is April 12th. So that would be the public hearing for the budget. And we'll also have the annual meeting on that date too.
All right, do I have a motion to schedule that public hearing?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have a public hearing.
Okay, and I should say, and as I should say, of course, the notice right now says that it's being held at Village Hall. So a lot can happen in the next few weeks, and just like our Zoom meetings or our go-to meetings, if we need to, if it'll be an online virtual meeting, then we'll be sure to provide that notice requirement. As of right now, I think the changes to the open meeting law, the modifications, the governor's executive order suspending those pieces of the open meetings law expires later this month. So we'll have to see where that's headed. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Well, Jim, does it make sense to schedule it now by Zoom with the option of making it live if there's a risk that our legal authority to do it by Zoom might expire later in the month?
Yes,
That's a great
yes, I think
point.
that would make sense to say that it will be, yes, it will be a virtual meeting and it will be duly posted, duly noticed. Yes.
Yeah,
Good call.
yeah. All
Yes.
right, and then our property tax cap override hearing schedule.
Okay, and yes, and just for some background on that, so I've also proposed that we hold that also on on Monday, April 12th, and that would be done via Zoom unless otherwise noticed. And as I mentioned in an email to all of you, this is just for the purposes of scheduling the public hearing. Then when we have the public hearing, the board could either keep it open or close it. But given the time frame and the fact that we do have to, I start working backwards from when the budget has to be adopted, which is May 1st, and we do have to have the tax cap override decision in place before we adopt the budget. So again, budget's still being worked on, it's not finalized, but it is worth noting that the tax cap, as you might all recall, is tied to the rate of inflation or 2%, whichever is lower. And the tax cap number for this year, for the posted number, is 1.3% for villages with a fiscal year commencing on June 1st. Again, tax cap approved by the legislature and the governor. The dates are tied to when your fiscal year is, whether you're a village or your school entity. And for villages with a fiscal year commencing on June, that number is 1.3%, since inflation is lower than 2% right now. So that number being exceptionally low, I think you could see anyway, more communities in New York State over the course of this past year are coming in above the tax cap. But anyway, this is just for the purposes of scheduling. So I just wanted to clarify that.
So that this is just to get a hearing on board, and then the trustees next month can discuss the merits of override or not override. Is
Right,
that-
and of course, by that time, you will have also had a chance to look at the tentative budget.
Right,
And you'll
right.
see what the levy and the tax rate increases come in at, and where we are with any use of fund balance to balance the budget, et cetera.
Okay, so I just then need a motion to schedule the public hearing for April 12th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, and a second.
Second.
Helen's, yes, Mary or Helen.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. And then this one is our police committee, and I'm going to turn this resolution over to the deputy mayor because of he did the most incredible job chairing this committee, forming this committee. So Deputy Mayor Underhill, will you do our third resolution for us?
Well, thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to take a moment just to remind everyone who is on our 25 or 26 person committee. So we had from the village, we had the mayor, Jim Palmer, and myself. And then from the village, we had Stephen Palm, the resident and merchant, Anar Patel, resident, Matt Murphy, resident, Mickey Kapoor, resident, Peter Thorpe, a resident and Gramerton Village member, Dr. John Nunez from Concordia, Reverend Michael Bird from Christ Church, Bishop Derek Owens from Golden Sword, Reverend Pastor Matt Waterstone from the Reformed Church, Father McGorry from St. Joe's, Reverend Robert Hartwell from the Lutheran Church. We had Rabbi Deutsch from the Chabad Jewish Center, Roy Montesino from the school, Kelly Ward, high school student, Tom Harity, high school student, Shannon Gingemi from the chamber, John Thomas, who at the time was the Westchester County Assistant DA, M.H. Schembacher, Dr. M.H. Schembacher from the Lawrence Hospital, Tamika Coverdale, who is a regional chief and a public advocate, and George McInnes, retired judge. From the police department, we had Chief Satriali, Lieutenant Bunyan, and Sergeant DeYoung. And we have one of the largest and one of the most diverse, one of the largest and most diverse committees across Westchester. We had 6 meetings. We had an amazing participation rate. I want to say probably 60% of our members attended each and every one of our 6 meetings. A big thanks goes to the police department. They put a ton of work into this, and as they have put a ton of work into their job over the years, and we came out with a great understanding of what the police department does. And like any great organizations, there's change that can be adopted, new ways of doing things. And I think the police department was very open to this and very open to this self-examination. So great thanks to the chief and the team. So I think are there any, just like to see if there's anyone from the committee who's dialed in. And if so, I'd welcome any comment on this. If there's anyone from the committee who would like to make a comment. I don't know if there's anyone there.
Bob, hey, this is Anar Patel.
Oh, thank you.
Just wanted to second everything that was said. It was really a deep dive into policies, and people were very reflective and involved. And, you know, I think truly a huge undertaking, but thanks so much to the deputy mayor and Jim Palmer and kind of leading the way.
Hey, well, thank you. And you were one of the stalwarts there, and we had 6 meetings. A couple of those were 2 to 3 hours. So thank you for that participation. I'm really grateful for it. And also, as we look at this, well, are there any other committee members that wanted to make any comments? Okay, seeing none. I'd like to point out that this is not the conclusion of a process. We adopted this committee. We formed this committee and went through this process in response to the governor's executive order. As we got into this, it became really apparent to me that this type of process, this process of reexamination and disclosure and determining priorities, both from a communication perspective and a training perspective, are critical to have on an ongoing basis. So as you, my fellow trustees, look at adopting these proposed recommendations, please see this as early steps in a process that I hope will be evergreen through our community and not the conclusion of a governor mandated process.
And you know, Bob, you also mentioned, which it sort of prompted us to think we should be examining on some kind of regular basis just all of our departments, whether it's DPW or admin, just to make sure we're doing all the you know, the current things, the proper things. It caused us to think we could use a little self-examination across the board.
That's a great point, Mayor. And that's something that as we looked into the prospects of conducting a survey, which we will be doing and want to make sure that it's done in a very fulsome fashion. We need to have the same type of survey and outreach on other parts of our government, from DPW to kind of the trustees. So
Right.
we'll be doing that as well.
I think this what made this from the outside, looking in, such a wonderful and valuable process was that there were so many different stakeholders involved. And I think, bringing the different perspectives into this kind of deep dive into the police or the DPW or the village trustee system, all these components we have of our community, it's so valuable when you get to see those different perspectives, because sometimes, when it's just your own selves looking at the process, you don't get the value of the interchange between all those stakeholders. So thank you so much for all the people that were involved to make this tremendous effort so successful.
And I would like to add as well, I just wanted to, from the trustee standpoint, I'd like to thank all the committee for their hard work. I was able to sit in on a few meetings, unfortunately not all of them, but a majority of them. And I thought their hard work was amazing. I also wanted to compliment Chief Satrielli and his staff. Some Sergeant DeYoung is on here today as well, for being open and forthright during the process. Clearly, when you evaluate yourself, it's not always the easiest. And I think their willingness to critically look at themselves in order to continue to make themselves better and without hesitation is really commendable. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Mary, thank you very much. And I'm very grateful that so many of my fellow trustees took the time to participate in multiple meetings, and both and to participate. So I'm very, very grateful for that.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo everything that Mary just said, and since the chief and Sergeant DeYoung are on the phone, I really think that it spoke to the quality of the professionalism of the police department, the quality of the presentations that were made. And I think that the review processes for other departments, which some others on the call have alluded to, I think a good way of looking at them is also that it serves in educational purposes, certainly for those trustees who haven't been in village government as long as some other trustees, to really gain a deeper appreciation of some of the issues and challenges. And we're all working together for a common purpose. But most importantly, I want to echo others' comments to thank all the members of the committee. It was, I was lucky enough to sit on some, and I really think that we should keep those web links up for some additional period of time, because I think they're just so valuable and educational, to have. I mean, I kind of want to log in on some of them again and then listen to them, even though some of them, as you say, Bob, went, an hour and a half or 2 hours long. It's a really great process. So I commend the deputy mayor for having managed it so well.
Oh, thank you, Bill.
All right, so Bob, have you moved the resolution?
Yeah, I'd like someone to, I do not want to make a motion for the resolution.
I have just 2 quick questions.
Okay.
One is, one of the recommendations is to evaluate benefits and costs of annual accreditation. And if you could just speak briefly as to what that refers to.
Yeah, there's we need to evaluate the benefits of going through the accreditation process. There's a lot of elements of the accreditation process that don't necessarily touch on our community, but you need to do them to be accredited. So that takes additional staffing and additional training in areas that aren't necessarily relevant to our mission, to the mission of our department in the village. So for those elements that are relevant, those are all covered through our training. So we need to keep monitoring that in the future.
And just really briefly, who do you think should be making that recommendation? Should that be sort of an ad hoc committee presenting a recommendation to the board?
I think it should be, I think we need to continue with a form of the PCRC on a go-forward basis with active trustee participation. And that would end up becoming from a recommendation from that group of people to the trustees. And we can have the opportunity to ask questions about it and determine whether we want to spend that money or not.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
So Bob, do you want to ask for a motion?
Yeah,
here?
I'd like a motion to approve this set of recommendations. And then what we're doing here is we're making a motion to adopt the recommendations from the PCRC. And then those will then be sent to the state to demonstrate that we have fulfilled our obligations as set out in EO 203. But then we need to just keep our hard work going on this. And the chief and the team there have started a number of those things. But one of our key projects here will be a survey. And we're going to learn a lot about what we need to do next through the survey. So yeah, if there's a motion.
Mayor, since you were on the committee, do you want to?
I would love to move it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary, thank you.
Okay.
And a
And
second.
all
I
those
think you
in
need a second,
favor?
Mayor. I think you need a second.
Mary, we had a
Yep.
double Mary there.
Okay,
All
so all
those
in
in,
favor?
I,
Thank you,
Motion.
all trustees, greatly appreciated.
yeah, thank you, Robert.
And thank you, Chief Satriali, Lieutenant Bunyan, Sergeant DeYoung, and everyone else. Mary, Trustee Barron's said it much more eloquently than I can, but it was your very high quality group of professionals, and it was a great process to go through.
All right, Jim Palmer, we're going on to the new plan we need, given the pandemic situation.
Yes, so from time to time, I request that the board approve plans, operation plans or policies. And what you have before you is a pandemic operations plan. This is, again, another one of these living, breathing documents that will change from time to time. But this comes out of changes to the labor law, which were adopted by the legislature and signed by the governor last year as a result of COVID. And I've shared the document with our collective bargaining groups, have it posted in Village Hall, and we'll continue to circulate it. And essentially, it documents really what we've been doing over the course of the past year in terms of how we provide the PPE to staff, how we take temperatures to monitor everyone's condition, all the way down to such details as how many employees can be in the different break rooms, given that we want to, again, our priority is to protect the safety of all the employees. So it outlines those, what other equipment we have, what other devices we have to protect employees, how many employees should be in the case of DPW, in a truck at the same time. Again, we've tried to keep the vehicles to being occupied by one person at a time. So those are the items that are identified in the plan. And then, of course, another huge component of the plan is working from home. So I've identified the individuals that are essential employees versus those that do have the capability of working remotely. And of course, over the course of this past year, we've had many employees, well, not many, but several of the administrative team here working remotely. And we've set them up with computers and appropriate capability to access the software here in Village Hall. And as of right now, we still operate on a slightly reduced schedule and rotation for the administrative team. So that's all identified in the plan.
So do I have a motion to approve our pandemic plan?
I'll
So
move it.
moved.
The question is this subject to the union negotiation or union
Good
input?
question.
No, although I want their input, so we're going to continue to circulate it. And but no, it doesn't require their approval, but I want them to understand it, just as in the case of what we did over the course of the pandemic. You know, we wanted their support because at the end of the day, they're you know, it's about them. So.
Okay, so we had a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. And then we have one certiorari settlement.
Right, and you should all have a copy of that. It's one property, actually an unimproved lot with 6 years involved, and you have the write-up from the assessor recommending it. I think the total village refunds were just under $2,000. Total school refunds of $8,465, and this was for the period of 2015 to 2020. Again, regarding the valuation of an unimproved lot on Governor's Road.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the settlement?
I'll move it.
Okay, and Mary Behrens is the second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay,
All right.
and the next item we talked about in our work session, this is just scheduling that a public hearing for the amendment to Chapter 290 as it relates to identifying the meter duration. And in this case, it's for Studio Arcade. We'd simply be moving it from an hour and a half period to a 2-hour meter zone. So
And I mentioned in work session, this was brought forward by the doctors, the businesses, and the residents who are on that particular strip of Studio Arcade, that some of their treatments and their services take longer than 90 minutes, and folks are forced to run out mid-service or examination to feed meters. So this was a collective request from the folks who live and work there.
Yeah,
So
I
do
would-
I, and it's,
Yeah, I'd move the passage of the resolution with the amendment as we did before, that the resolution provide for the hearing to be held by Zoom.
virtually, yes, yep.
okay, good point. All right, do I have a motion to schedule the public hearing again for April 12th?
So moved.
Okay, and then we had a second from trustee Knapp. All right, all those in favor? Aye.
All right.
All right, we have another public hearing. All
Okay,
right.
Okay, and then let's see, the next item is, again, retaining fiscal advisors, our current consultants for our preparation for our bond issuance and preparation of documents and calls with Moody's. And that's fiscal advisors. But this agreement will take us out another year through the end of May 31, 2022.
And Mr. Palmer, again, I know you reiterated some concrete examples of what they do for us at the work session, but maybe for the public session, perhaps just mention how we use their services.
Yes, they assist us with all the preparation, all the work that's involved with going with a bond issuance, which is a lot. Quite frankly, it really takes us out 3 to 6 months when you go to issue a bond, culminating with final call with the bond rating agency Moody's just before the issuance of the bond. So they prepare the documents. They review the current interest rate environment. They recommend the time when you should issue a bond. They calculate all the potential schedules. They determine what the weighted useful life is of the different items that you're going out to bond on. This in of itself for our bond that we're going to be issuing for the 13.2 million is unique because we had so many different projects on it. So they prepare those schedules, and then as I said, they prepare the documents that all the documents except for the legal notices, which are crafted by bond counsel themselves, but bond counsel and fiscal advisors, for that matter, work together. So just to get to this issuance, it's honestly been a lot of work, and I have to say the treasurer has spent a lot of time on this, but we're very excited because the timing should be just right.
All right, so do I have a motion to retain fiscal advisors and marketing Inc.?
So moved.
Okay, and trustee Knapp is a second. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. And finally, our last resolution, and it's two of our traffic corners.
Yes, so just approving the total expenditure of $16,820 for these two improvements. And again, while not initially in our capital plan, we did have the we needed to replace upgrade the signal at both Locust and Pondfield, and also at Sagamore and Avon. And we were able to do both of those on the same day, reducing our labor costs, as well as the bucket truck rental, since we utilize Verdi Contracting was the principal lighting maintenance company, if you will, in this region. And so now both of those signals are LED and have the necessary shields, so that they're as visible, the signals are as visible as they can be for motorists.
Yes,
I had one quick question. Can we infer from this resolution that all of the other traffic lights in the village, other than certain ones that are undergoing reconstruction, such as at Grambling, that all the other traffic lights have been upgraded already to the same standard as these traffic lights will be upgraded?
You know, I need to look at the signal on Midland at Tangawal. I'm not quite sure if that's made of the same material as these signals. I'm not sure that the Tangawal light has LED signals, although we've been systematically replacing all those when the electrical company does come out. We replace them with LEDs. They're a little more expensive, that they're brighter, they're more visible. So I actually had asked them for a quote for Midland and Tangawal. I'm not sure, and I'm just not sure of the material of that signal. So outside of that one, yes, we should absolutely be current. And of course, some of the signals are the responsibility of the state DOT, such as the one up at 22 at Bronxville and also at Tangawal. But I can say that we've changed them all out to LEDs. Yes.
I mean, do we need to give you any authority to do any other upgrading that might be necessary, so that we don't have to hold things in the works for a while?
I don't think we'd hold it. I think if I could replace the LEDs at Tangawal, we'll be able to do that through the operational budget anyway.
Okay, so Mr. Palmer, in essence, if you find another one or two, you will do it concurrently with these two.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. All right, then I need a motion authorizing the funding for the traffic signal upgrades. Okay, trustee Fredericks, I need a second. Trustee Underhill, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. And before I open it to our residents for a public comment on anything, Trustees, we've had a very productive month. Any comments or did I miss anything before we go to public comment?
I think I'll just reiterate something that Mary Barron, Trustee Barron said at the end of the last meeting, which was again, hats off to the DPW staff
Yeah.
for all the work they've done this winter.
Yeah, that well said.
And also, Jim Palmer, we're now up to effectively the 1-year anniversary of dealing in a COVID world. And thanks to you and the team and the treasurer for keeping things moving in the village in a very, very difficult environment. So I'm personally very grateful for the great work you have done and continue to do under extenuating circumstances.
Thank you. Yeah, all the staff have absolutely been, everyone's been terrific, every department, honestly. I think we really got it down to quite a system, but still hoping that we can put this this behind us sooner than later, and we can fully reopen.
And you know, it made me think, Bob, with the year anniversary, I just want to say thank you to the generosity of the residents of this village for what they've done for our businesses, everyone helping out our first responders, because people have stepped up to the plate extraordinarily. The loan program, you name it, people have, they've given meals, gift cards. So just thank you to the residents of this village. Amazing. All righty, I'm going to open it to any village resident who would like to make a comment and just ask that they honor our 3-minute time period. Is there anyone that would like to say anything? Okay, seeing none, then I will just open it up to the general public also for a 3-minute time period. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment?
Hello, Mayor. It's Brer Abbott for the Bronxville Surrealist. It's excellent to see you. I think this meeting has gone extremely well because it's on Zoom. And I heard at the top of the meeting, can everyone hear me okay? Is my microphone actually working?
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I heard at the top of the meeting that a new, I'm sorry, I missed the name, a new environmental committee is forming. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it's climate smart, and it's kind of joining some other, I'd like to think, communities trying to watch our, our carbon footprint and.
Excellent. That's brilliant. So on that note, I just want to point out that the Bronxville Historical Conservancy, which, they're no slackers in that outfit, have published an amazing, I'll call it a book. You can buy it. I bought it at the counter at Village Hall. It's called Defining the Landscapes of Bronxville, the Natural and Built Environment. This is the most amazing publication to come out of Bronxville, I think, ever. And I refer specifically, and I hope that the committee will look at page, I own it and refer to it constantly, page 11, which is local geology, which is mind-blowing because, as I like to say, Bronxville doesn't sit atop an aquifer. Bronxville is an aquifer. You don't have to go too far down into the earth to hit water. Except for Hilltop and a section actually close to the river. This book called Defining the Landscapes of Bronxville is essential to the functioning of that committee. I couldn't endorse it more. I hope that the members of the committee will have access to it. I also want to mention that the committee should definitely make an appointment with the excellent Raymond, and I never pronounce his name properly, Jesselbrock, is that?
Yes. Gesselbrock.
What is it?
It's Raymond Gesselbrock.
It's a hard G or a soft G you can never win. He's the village historian. He runs the Bronxville History Center, which is in the basement of the Bronxville Public Library, something that has always troubled me, its location. But I encourage the committee to go there on a field trip and look at the amazing collection there, and particularly the work of Harry Leslie Walker, architect, who proposed at one time a village park. This meeting opened and closed on the subject of traffic, and I'm going to close my comments by saying, y'all know how much I detest cars, and I want them out of Bronxville. So Harry Leslie Walker proposed a way of doing that, and maybe we should go back in time 100 years and look at some of the ideas that were proposed. Could still be activated. Thank you very much for your time. Brer Abbott for the Bronxville Surrealist at thebronxville.com.
Mr. Abbott, those are such great suggestions, and the committee has only 2 copies of that incredible work, and you just prompted me to make sure we share more. And the History Center is an amazing thing, and thank you for mentioning all those things. They're extremely helpful. Thank you. All right. Anybody else out there that would like to comment on anything before a motion to close? Okay, seeing none, I need a motion to close our March 8th meeting. Anyone like to move
So
it?
moved.
Deputy Mayor, and a second?
Second.
Okay, Trustee Knapp, and all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All righty, and we meet again April 12th, and based on the amount, we will probably be meeting a lot longer on the 12th. So see you all then.